we're going to talk a little bit about the ship and the storm. Amen. I heard Sister King talk about the ship that Jonah was on and how the storm came, right? People didn't know what to do. But Jonah said, it's my problem. I'm at fault. And they threw him over because he said, throw me over. And he figured everything would be cool after they threw him over. Jonah didn't realize that God had a plan. Amen, somebody. And that when God has a plan, no matter what you think your plan might be, no matter what you suggest to others about your plan, I'm here to tell you that God has a way that will supersede your way. Can I get a witness in here? God has a way of dealing with you that works just for you. Amen. He might deal with your neighbor a little differently, but he got a way for you. Amen, somebody. And so this morning, we want to continue that thing. We're not going to talk about Jonah, but we're going to talk about Paul. Paul's another guy who liked to ride on ships. Amen. Paul was always taking ships somewhere. Amen. I'm thinking about that because tomorrow I'm about to get on a ship. It just ain't a water ship. It's an airship. Amen. And getting on these airships is not always the best thing for me in my mind because sometimes they don't always stay in the air. Amen. But one thing I do know for certain, as with Paul, that if God be with you, you don't have to worry about where it's going because you know who you're with. Amen. You know who you're with. Just bump your neighbor high five and say, I know who I'm with. Hello. I know who I'm with. I know who I'm with. Amen. Amen. They wrote a song about it. The song said who you're with, right? I know who I'm with. Amen. You need to look at your other neighbor and ask them the question, who you with? Who you with? Who you with? Who you with? All right. You need to know who you're with. Amen. Because it determines whether or not you're going to get where you think you're going. Amen, somebody. All right. And so today, I just want to preach to you for about 15, 20 minutes. And the title of the message today is Stay with the Ship. Amen, somebody. Stay with the ship. Stay with the ship. Stay with the ship. Now, just a quick little story here, and we're going to jump into this text so that you all know and get prepared. The text is Acts chapter 27. It's Acts chapter 27. I guess you saw that by the fire. And the word Acts. Amen. So we'll be in Acts chapter 27 this morning. And we're going to be talking about the ship. Stay with the ship. Stay with the ship. A couple stories this morning. I might not give you all that. Yeah, I'll give you one. Some of you have heard this story before. It's about a guy who didn't want to go to church, right? So Sunday morning came, and the mother came in to wake her son up. And she said, it's time to get ready to go to church. He said, man, I don't feel like going to church. She said, no, you got to get on up. It's time to get ready to go to church. He said, he proclaimed to his mom, he said, well, I'm not going this Sunday. She said, you're not going? He said, no, I'm not going this Sunday, and I'm going to give you 2 reasons why I'm not going this Sunday. She said, okay, what is it? He said, for one, those people don't like me over at that church. And for 2, he said, I don't like them either. Mom said, okay. All right, cool. Well, I'm going to give you 2 reasons why you should go to church today, right? She said, number 1, you're 54 years old. And number 2, you're the pastor of the church. So all right, some of y'all heard that story before, all right? You got to go, amen. So this morning, just as a precursor to our text, Acts chapter 27, just want to give you a little background about why I really feel that God put this message in my heart today. For one, is when you look around today at what's going on in our world, what's happening in our society, we see that you can compare it to a storm. Amen? And I mean figuratively, but also literally. We have had storms. Amen? So we've had literal storms hit various places in the United States. A literal storm hit the island of Puerto Rico. Amen. A literal storm hit Texas. And a literal storm hit the state of Florida. Amen. But we've also had figurative storms. We had a figurative storm here lately where a guy in Las Vegas brought in an arsenal of weaponry and broke out windows and commenced shooting people at random at a concert. Over 50 people died and over 200 people were injured. That's a storm. Amen. We've also seen that we've had white supremacists protesting with torches in Charlottesville, Virginia, chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Brothers and sisters, I don't know about you, but that's a storm. Now we have infighting in the church whether or not we should stand with these good people on both sides, or should we be vocal against all sin and unrighteousness? As Dr. King reminded us that to be silent is to also be against what is right. And so I say to you, in our society and in our world today, we are facing storms. And for those of you who are on the political front lines, and those of you who like politics, I'd also venture to say that some of these things are outside of politics. Well, people don't want to talk about this, and people on particular political persuasion don't like it, but we're also facing an epidemic where we are killing unborn children at an unnatural rate. Amen. And we have gotten so callous about it that we call it a form of birth control. Oh, no, y'all ain't gonna say amen today. But we're allowing this epidemic not to just kill unborn children, because God can handle that, but we've allowed this epidemic to sear our very consciousness where we don't even see it as sin. Brothers and sisters, there is a storm happening in our world. We've now equated, y'all ready for me to sit down already? We've now equated human rights and civil rights with the rights of sexual preference. And now we've stepped away from basic human rights and moved toward civil rights, and now we're saying people have a right to their sexual preference. Those in the church think, yeah, everybody has rights because our consciousness has been seared with the hot iron. We believe that now to tell the truth means to hurt someone else. Well, I submit this to you that we're in a storm. I'll say just a couple more things, and I'm going to get onto this text because y'all ain't liking me right now. And I'll say this, that what happens is when you get in a storm, and the storm looks so gloomy and so bad that you start to fear for your own life, I submit this to you, that you actually start having thoughts that are not even rational anymore. And your thoughts move from what is rational and what is right to that what is irrational and potentially not right and dangerous. Because self-preservation kicks in. Oh my goodness, you're preaching real good today, Pastor Ross. And when self-preservation kicks in, then you have no more compassion or even a thought for your neighbor. Brothers and sisters, we are in a storm. And I'll leave you with this last piece. I have a tendency sometimes to look at news reports, and I see them online, and I read the reports, but I have a tendency to see how the public is reacting to these news reports. So I go and I look at the comment section. I've been reading these comment sections for the past 7 to 10 years, and particularly the comment sections have been traditionally pretty politically correct. People have tried to be civil when they comment. But now, since the storm has hit, people are no longer civil. They've taken all rational behavior away. They've stripped off any moral character. They even got so bold that they'll let you know where they live and where they work, and they're telling you gutturally how I feel about you. They're quick to call you a monkey. Quick to call you a cracker. Quick to call you the N-word. Because we're in a storm. Are you hearing me? Amen. Brothers and sisters, I just wanted to come today to remind you that even in the midst of a storm, you must realize who he is so that you can realize who you are. Because if you forget about who he is, you'll forget about who you are. And when the storm is over, the repercussions you're going to have to deal with. Forgotten that storms don't last always. At the end of the storm, there comes the cleanup. And if you want there to be a potential for a cleanup, you got to know how to act in the midst of a storm. Today, I just want to tell you, you just look at your neighbor and tell them, in the midst of a storm, you got to stay with the ship. Hallelujah. Look at your other neighbor, because they didn't receive you well, and tell them in the midst of a storm, you've got to stay with the ship. Amen. Amen. So let's look at this text. We can't read it all, and I'm not going to try to read it all, but let me summarize it here for you. If it'll come on up. Everything else acting up, so this might as well act up too. All right. All right. So Paul is a prisoner. He's a prisoner, and they're sailing him. They're sailing him to take him. Y'all got it? Acts 27. So they're taking Paul. Y'all got it? They're taking Paul to see Caesar. All right, and so he is a prisoner. And so in order to get him where he needs to go, they got to ride on a ship. All right, and so they're leaving in the ship and they're riding on the ship. And then Julius, the guys, has been kind of kind to Paul. Trying to take care of him, even stop and let Paul see his friends and his relatives and all that good stuff, right? But then now they got to move on. So they're moving on, and they're going on, and you got him on board the ship, going toward Alexandria, so that he can see Caesar, right? So he's sailing on the coast, and then they get down to the coast, and it was difficult, and they get to the Fair Havens. Fair Havens is near the town of Lasea. I'm in verse number 9 now. And then it says, when we had lost a lot of time, the weather started getting dangerous for sea travel because it was late in the fall. And now mind you, Paul been riding these seas for a long time, right? So Paul goes to the ship's officers and captains and says, hey, check this out. Look at verse number 10. He says, men, I believe there is going to be trouble ahead if we go on. We're going to have shipwreck, loss of cargo, and danger to our lives as well. Now, Paul is warning them, right? Paul is warning them. Yeah. Amen, somebody. How many of you know that you got a warning? Amen. And so, but the officer in charge of the prisoners, he didn't really care about what Paul had to say. He listened more to the captain and the owner than Paul. Now, just got to pause just for a second here. I'm not going to preach on this one, but just will pause and say, why do you think that he was more concerned with what the ship's captain and the owner said than Paul? He knew Paul had been over these seas. He knew Paul probably knew what he was talking about. But at the end of the day, if your money is more important than your mission, y'all ain't gonna talk, man. You ain't gonna talk. Then you have a tendency to believe your financial advisor, over your spiritual advisor. Come on now. Come on now. See, your spiritual advisor will take second place to your financial advisor. Wow. This is what happened here. He said, listen. Yeah, I hear you, Paul. You're a cool dude. I know you're experienced, man, but the officers and the owners, they said, we keep it on. All right, okay, all right. But Paul said, I warned you. Amen, somebody. I warned you. All right. And so look at verse number 12. It says, and since Fair Havens was an exposed harbor, it was not convenient. Right? Y'all see that? King James used the word commodious. Y'all ever heard that word? I hadn't heard it either. And so I looked it up. And commodious means not convenient or expedient.
Okay.
You see that? So it says it was not convenient to winter there. And here's the reason, because it was an exposed harbor. And so an exposed harbor means that all of the winds and all of the rain and all those things have the potential to hit the boat and potentially mess with the cargo in the boat. Are you seeing it? They still looking at their finances instead of their life. Amen. So he says it's not convenient. It's not a convenient place to spend the winter. And most of the crew wanted to go on to Phoenix, further up the coast, and spend the winter there. Phoenix was a good harbor with only a southwest and northwest exposure. All right? So I just want to pause here because this is a long text, and I just got to explain just a few things before we get there. See, now the first thing you got to see here is that just because things are difficult does not mean that it's not the will of God. Right. Amen, somebody. Right. See, I got to pause here because a lot of times what will happen is we'll look at something and we'll see that it's not commodious. It's not convenient. It's not what we would typically say is expedient. And we say it's time to move on. Amen, somebody. And so the thing you must realize and understand here is that the first ship that you better stay in is not necessarily convenient or commodious, but the first ship you better stay in, if it's working, is relationship. Y'all ain't gonna talk to me. Amen, somebody. Amen. Thank you. God brought a few amens with me. All right. So relationship is the first ship you need to stay in. And how many of you know all relationships, most relationships, are not always commodious? Amen.
Amen.
Amen, right? Most relationships are not convenient. Now, they start out convenient. They start out nice and good, right? They call it the honeymoon stage. It starts out cool, right? You meet somebody and you're excited. And they ask you out to a place that you've been hundreds of times, but you don't care because you're excited because they asked you out, right? And it's just nice and good. It's exciting, you know. Ooh, you get them little butterflies, you know. Amen. Even old folks get them butterflies. Amen, somebody. Right? You get them butterflies and you go out and it's exciting. You're looking forward to it. You've been getting ready all day. You got off work early. You get yourself together. You put your face on, right? All of that stuff. But then, after about 6 or 7 or 8 months, and it's your turn to pay for it. It gets a lot less commodious. Amen. It gets a little bit more odorous. Amen. Right? And the next thing you know, you ain't getting off work early. You ain't doing all of this other extra stuff, and you're just showing up. Amen. Then what happens is somebody tells you something that you don't want to hear. Help me here, Jesus. They tell you that this is the place that you should stay in, and you ain't trying to hear that. Now all of a sudden you got a problem with that ship. Amen. And you're looking for a new ship to come passing by in the night. Amen, somebody, right? Now you're looking to get off this ship at the next port so that you can get on a new ship. But brothers and sisters, how many of you know sometimes you need to stay on the ship? Amen. Now I'm just not talking to boyfriends and girlfriends. I'm talking really to married couples. Amen. Because you know how it is. The first year of marriage, well, the first few weeks of marriage. But after a while, you get into the marriage and you're ready to get off that ship. Amen. You know I'm telling the truth because there is no marriage in here. Nobody in here that's been married longer than 6 weeks that haven't had, I'm ready to get off the ship experience. Amen. Nobody in here has had a friend longer than 5 years and you're ready to move on and get another friend. Amen. Because relationships that last are difficult, and they last because you put in work. Amen, somebody? They last because you didn't give up and give out in the middle of the storm. Amen, somebody? So what has to happen, brothers and sisters, is you've got to be able to go through winter sometimes in a place that is not commodious. Amen, somebody. That means winter, when times are difficult, when the relationship gets cold. Amen. You've got to go through the winter in your relationships. Amen. Paul is saying to him here is, yeah, I know it's not commodious to winter here, but this is the best place for us to winter. Because if we leave this place, we're going to experience more storms and loss. Amen. Sometimes it looks better at the other place, but in actuality, you get into the other place will destroy you when you should have stayed in the place that you're in. Amen. 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 Amen.